Okay, welcome everybody. This is the first video for Math Lab. If you would, make sure you watch the introduction videos. I did notice that on the introduction videos I forgot to introduce myself. My name is David E. Lee. This is the email address for me that I was talking about. If you have a question, you can email at dely@mogoodwillexcel.org. If you are under your school email and you're sending an email, once you start typing this in, it should finish it out for you. So if you have any questions as you go along, this would be a good way to contact me. You can also do it through the Google Classroom under People. You can go to People and find me under there as well. I want to obviously welcome you to the class. I always share this the first day when we're in normal circumstances at the Excel Center, but I'm very proud of you guys. I think this program is amazing. I enjoy it. I think it's amazing what it does for the students. So I'm happy you're taking part in this. I want to make sure that with math, the reason why I want to keep doing it as on a board and kind of write out and keep that thing familiar, those that have had me before, I really try to break down math and make it understandable why we're doing some of the things that we do, especially laying the foundation here in this class. We basically, students ask, what do we cover? That's usually what they want to know right away. With this class, we cover the basic things of math: addition, subtraction, multiplication, division. Then at the very end, we move into some fractions and decimals. I don't want to scare you with that because everybody thinks, oh no, fractions. But we really build our way there to where once we're there, we try to really make it understandable. I want to make sure as we go on that if you have questions on anything, make sure you're reaching out. I'll be touching base with you guys, but these are going to be the daily videos that you watch, and I go through and do a lot of the problems with you and kind of break them down. That way when you go to do them yourself and practice them, that you have that video that you can keep referring back to. You can replay it however many times you need to and go about that way. So as far as this is our first day that you're going to be taking notes. So if you want to go ahead and get a notebook out, pause it for a second while you do that. Go ahead and get a notebook and start taking notes. I'm going to do practice problems as we go along so that you can follow along with those, okay? First thing we're going to start covering is our operations. So I wrote 4 words up there. Now I also try to do that in this class because all of this vocab is new. I try to start with the vocab, so that way if I'm using words that you're not familiar with, you can know what I'm talking about, what I'm doing. We call these things operations. When we add or subtract or divide or multiply or any of those things, we call it operations. In fact, when you go into pre-algebra next, we have a whole section on order of operations, the order that you do them if they're all right by each other. So these are operations. I've got the 4 main words that we use in math for these things. And math is funny because it is its own language. A lot of Greek tendencies. It kind of has its own rules sometimes with the way you do words, especially when you start involving letters into it in algebra. A lot of students go, oh, I loved math until they added letters into it. But there is a reason for that. But basically, this is the 4 main operations that you do when you're doing math. Sum, we're talking about addition. So it's when we add things together, 7 plus 2. The sum of 7 plus 2 is 9. The answer is 9. The difference is when you subtract, okay? So the difference between 8 and 2 is 6. There's 6 difference, and the way you find that is to subtract. 8 minus 2, the difference between those 2 numbers is 6, okay? Product is multiplication. Okay, when you multiply something, you get a product. So 7 times 2 is 14. The product of 7 and 2 is 14. Quotient is division. Okay, and that's when we divide things. Okay, now we will start here, and throughout the term, we'll move through these other operations. But I wanted to go ahead and put these 4 because these are the main things we're going to be doing. Let you know what we're going to be moving into. And when I use those words, that way you know what they are, okay? So these are the 4 main operations we'll be working with, and it's sum, difference, product, quotient. So we will start with sum. okay, with addition. Okay, and with that, I'm actually going to switch boards because this one's a little bit better. Last time I switched boards, I knocked the camera over, and it took me a good 2 minutes to find out that it had been knocked over. So everybody got a good picture of my ceiling fan for a little bit. But basically, we're going to start with sum. We're going to start with addition. The thing about addition is all about lining up, okay, lining up things, and you're combining things, okay? So when you're adding things, you're combining them. We learned this at a young age. We learned, hey, if you want to add 7 plus 2, it's like the 7 apples and the 2 apples, and you combine them. But we want to make sure in all of these things we never leave common sense behind, that we never get so caught up in the operation of it that we kind of forget why we're doing it, why we're combining things. Another thing I want to address here is mental math, the thing we call mental math. Now, this class, we are not going to be using calculators. The whole purpose of this class is to learn to do these things without a calculator. When you go on to the other classes, pre-algebra, algebra, geometry, we use calculators. But this, we want to practice these things without a calculator so we can do them in our head or do them on paper. I enjoy doing it that way just because I like to see my answers. I rarely try to use a calculator unless I get into higher levels and just need to go faster. But I try to do things on paper so that I can see where I made my mistakes. It's actually easier to go back and fix mistakes from paper because you can see where you made the mistake. Calculator, you get to the end, if it's wrong, you're not sure where did you push a wrong button, did you do something wrong. So it's actually easier to go back and correct your work. But as far as addition and mental math, we're going to do a process to add things, but there's things about adding, and even as we go on, that it's called mental math because you have to be able to do some things in your head. I'll give you an example. So if I go to do later and I'm doing my process and I come across 7 plus 2, okay, now I know a lot of you guys are like, I know what that is, but this is called mental math because we are doing those numbers in our head. We're adding 7 plus 2 in our head. So that later when we get to a problem that's maybe 320 plus 674 or something, we have to come across this 7 plus 2, but we're still doing it in our head. There's going to be a process to do this long problem, but when we get to 7 plus 2, we're still doing that in our head mentally. So no matter how we come across that, we are doing this in our head. 7 plus 2 is 9. Now in addition, it doesn't really make that much of a difference, but when you get into multiplication, it's even more. Those multiplication tables you want to be practicing so that you can do them more, for one, a little bit quicker in your head, but also more correctly as you go along, so that you're getting more and more correct. And those take time. It takes practice. I recommend flashcards. I recommend just doing problems over and over to get repetition. That's what helps you learn it. I've always told my classes I could stand up, and it's weird because I'm talking to a camera saying this, but I could stand up here and show you how to shoot a free throw over and over and say, this is how you do it, this is the form, but until you start practicing on your own and doing those, it's not going to help as much until you practice and do these. So some of this is going to be mental math, that if that's what's giving you trouble, make sure you're doing some extra practice on the side to do that. And there's so many online resources to help with that you can just type in adding numbers, practice, and they'll give you worksheets. You know, if you just Google adding numbers practice, you will find plenty of practice with that. So basically when we go to add numbers, it's all about lining up. So if I'm adding, and I'm going to write these side by side, 27 plus 5, okay, 27 plus 5. The process to do this, I'm going to make sure that I am lining it up correctly. So I do vertical lining up, so 27 plus 5, okay? And what I did was I lined the ones places and the tens places. I did not just go left to right like 27 plus 5. And I know a lot of you guys, this is like I already know this, but we start at the most basic level and build from there. So this is good practice, good review. But I don't just put left to right and add from there. That would be incorrect. If I added 27, this is why I said we never leave common sense behind, because if I had $27 and $5, I would not have $77. Okay, that wouldn't make any sense if I had 27 and only added 5. So we are not lining it up just left to right. We're lining up the value places. So I took the ones and put it here and lined it up there. So now when I go to add, I'm adding 7 plus 5. And this is the mental math that I was speaking of. So 7 plus 5 is 12. Okay, and so when I go to write 12, I don't just write 12. This is the process of adding. I don't just write 12 down here. Okay, that would be incorrect. So what I do is I write the ones of the 12, which is 7 plus 5 is 12, so that's the ones of the 12 is a 2, and then the tens of the 12 go above the 10 spot. Now, I know I just used a lot of value things, but basically what you're doing is write the end of the 12 down here and carry the next one to the next spot. Okay? When you do that, then you're going to say, okay, I've added these, now I'm going to add these. 2 and 1 is 3. Okay? So you took that 12, and what you did was you took the ones where the one spot was, you took the 10 of that and put it here. And so 10 plus 20 is 30. And that's where I got the 3 there. Okay? Now, let me do another one so that you see that it doesn't always have to be a 1 that's carried. Or 1 is carried, but basically you could carry more than once. Let's say I have 749 and I'm adding 89. Okay? So I'm adding 9 and 9. That's going to be 18. Mental math, 18. And then I carry my 1. Now I'm adding 1, 4, and 8, which is also going to be higher than 10. But so you know we're in the 10 spaces already. This is actually moving us into the hundreds and so on. So when I go 1 plus 4, that is 5. 5 plus 8 is 13, and I carry 1 again. Now I just do 1 and 7, that's 8, 838. Okay, so I added 9 and 9, 18, carried the 1, 1 plus 4 is 5, plus 8 is 13, carried the 1, 1 plus 7 is 8. But as you can see, the first thing that you have to do is line problems up, and then you begin your carrying process. So some more examples of that is, let's put some of these up on the board. Okay. Okay. I'm going to give you a second to just look those up real quick or start those. See, line them up how you think they need to be lined up, and then when I go to do them, you can check. Okay, so when I go to line these up, 326 plus 57. Okay, that's how they should have been lined up. Same thing with here, 97 plus 86. Okay, so we're lining them up correctly. Now you start your math part as far as mental math and carrying. Okay, 6 plus 7 is 13. So I'm going to put my 3. Carry my 1. 1 plus 2 is 3. Plus 5 is 8. And then 3 plus 0. I didn't carry anything from there. 3 plus 5 was 8. There was nothing to carry. It's just 3 plus 0 is 3. So 383 is my answer there. Okay, let's check this one. 7 plus 6 again is also 13. Carry my 1. 9 plus 8 is 17. Plus 1 is 18. Okay, so you get 183. All right, so really the key, like I said at first, is to make sure you're lining up, to go through that, and then being very, very careful with your carrying. Now, as we go on, as these get a little bit more challenging, we do harder problems, put in decimals, go on, and especially when we get into multiplication division, Um, the mental math is going to come more into play where you're having to do some of those basic parts of it in your head, or kind of practicing those so they come more quickly. But also some of the processes are a little bit harder, especially when you go to line up. The next video on the next day, or for those that are in the night class, the second video of today, when we put decimals, the lining up becomes just a little bit more challenging. But for right now, you're lining up your values, okay? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put some practice problems up there for you to do. And what I want you to do is, for your assignment of this first daily video, is you're going to take a photo of yourself with your notes and these problems, okay? If it takes a couple photos, that's fine. But I'm going to put about, I think there's about 7 or 8 problems that I'm going to put, that I'm going to have you do, just to touch base and make sure that you're doing these correctly. If you got to watch the video again, that's great. That's fine. You know, pause where you need to practice. But I'm going to put these practice problems up, and these are the ones I'm going to have you do for your daily assignment. Okay? Those daily assignments will be graded, and you'll get points for those. And then also, it will mark your attendance, as I explained in the introduction video. So if you don't do those by the time given, which this first one I actually give you an extra day, then you would be marked absent. Okay, you could still do the points later so that you can still get grades from it, but make sure you're doing them in the time frame set out so that you get the attendance. Okay, so first one I'm going to have you do is 25 plus 17, and these, you know, some of these won't take you very long if you're good with addition, and this isn't what, you know, I know this class is a little bit different because there may be things that you just struggle with later, like multiplication, division. But it's a good practice to review these and make sure our math is building to that point. 327 plus 99, 596 plus 758, 8,456 plus, oops. You know, I'm going to be doing that, erasing with my fingers, except when I would do that at the school, I would walk around with marker stuff on my hands and it'd get on my face and no one would tell me, and Dr. Kennedy and Mr. Schneider would laugh at me all day. But basically, these last two I'm going to put side by side. Whoops. Huh. I got a lot of marker on my hand. I'm going to put side by side and let you line them up. So 827 plus 35, and then the last one, 8,093 plus 702. So those last two I'll let you line up and add up, okay? So that'll be your first assignment, and like I said, I'll be posting the second video for my night class because they do 2 classes in one night, and then that second video will be posted to the day class the following day, okay? So thank you.